It may come as a shock to our listeners, but as we begin the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast, the Penguins once again blew a third period lead and lost in the shootout. We're going to talk about it right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me across all social media platforms at synonym for wet. Joined as always by the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can give our show's Twitter account a follow at LO_Penguins. You can also follow us on Instagram at LockedOn_Penguins. And you can find us on TikTok at Locked On Penguins. Of course, as always, we appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Don't forget that we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. And if you follow us on YouTube, which you should be, make sure you hit that notification button. That way you can be among the first to know when we drop our daily Monday through Friday episodes. Before we dive into whatever the hell that was last night against the Anaheim Ducks, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Pittsburgh Penguins, 4-3 losers in the shootout once again, this time to the Anaheim Ducks. It's the second game in a row that the Penguins surrendered a late third period goal, were unable to score in overtime, and then ultimately would lose in the shootout. Now, here's how I want to structure this episode, Hunter, because I can see through my camera here that you are like a rabid dog in a cage and you really, really want to get out. Unfortunately, hold on to some of that because we're going to save that mostly for the second segment, because here's your teaser, dear listener. Hunter and I kind of disagree about this game, and I want to make sure we have as much time as possible to hash that out. So let's start with just the game recap. The Penguins, let's be completely honest here before we get into the negative. They dominated this game, both analytically and top line statistics. They put 47 shots on the net. They greatly outshot the Anaheim Ducks for the vast majority of regulation. They were taking it to the Ducks. They were pinning them in their own end for long stretches. They were playing extremely well defensively. Shilov's with a couple leaky ones, but nothing that would really send up any red flags. But at the end of the day, for, I would say, 59 minutes and let's say 52 seconds, they played a really, really strong game. And I know it's cold comfort to say, so again, Hunter, keep that powder dry for the second segment. I will say this. They deserved a better fate than what they got.
I was going to say 59 minutes and 43 seconds just because the final 17 seconds were laughable. But if you want to say 59, 52, I'll give it to you. But I agree with you on the overall game. Yes, they dominated the Ducks up and down the ice. This probably should have been a 5-3, 6-3 game in favor of the Penguins. They put up almost 50 shots in Ville Husso. Pat, we joked about Jonas Johansson last week of the Lightning being the random goaltender that just plays his absolute tail off against the Penguins. Well, that was Ville Husso on Tuesday night.
And I want to say this about Husso before we get like you get too deep into your analysis here. He deserves his flowers. He made a lot of 10 bell saves, and it wasn't the Penguins putting up 47 who gives a crap shots right into his chest. He made a lot of massive saves, and he deserves the credit for that.
No, I mean, like if you just look at the high danger, like 18 high danger chances, 4 for the Penguins, 3 for the Ducks. Husso was great, man. Again, just plays his best game of his career. Looks like Dominic Hasek against the Penguins because, of course, a random goaltender that's not an elite goalie will do this at times against the Penguins. It really is funny. It was countless high danger chance after countless high danger chance. Puck wasn't going in the back of the net. They weren't getting the bounces until they eventually did. I mean, Tommy Novak, really 200 IQ play to bank the puck off of Husso and in. Really strong game from him overall. And then Anthony Mantha also gets a nice little bounce at the end of the third period. Should have been the game winner. Again, Pat's making me wait until the second segment before I go, I guess maybe 2 out of 10 nuclear here. I'm not going to go fully off. If we recorded last night, I think it would have been bad, but it's been a while. I've had time to decompress, and Pat and I are going to talk a lot about this, but they did deserve a better fate just based on the way they played outside of the final 17 seconds. This should have been a very comfortable win for the Penguins. And I think that's what's annoying, Pat, is because these last 2 games, yeah, they've gotten 2 out of 4 points. It should have been 4, though, because they dominated the Stars. They were the better team against them. They then dominated the Ducks, another really good team in the West this year. And you only get 2 loser points out of it when it should have been all 4.
Right. And I totally agree with that sentiment. Just on the surface is you play really well against 2 bona fide, really good teams. I mean, I know that you said it yesterday, and I was in agreement with you at the start of the season that I thought it was about a year too early for the Ducks. That said, I didn't think they were going to be bad. I didn't think they were going to be in the basement and still rebuilding. I thought they were going to be, honestly, kind of similar to what the Penguins are right now currently. They were going to be a team that for a couple weeks you look at them and go, you know what, there might be something here. And then you have a couple weeks where you go, no, never mind. They're still figuring it out. But they are legitimately good deep into this season. And they played both Dallas and Anaheim extremely well. Now, since you have been such a good co-host for this and you're keeping your powder dry, I'm going to give you a little bit of a treat here because it's something you and I definitely agree on. The kid line, once again last night, was unbelievable. That it was another game where Rucker McGroarty, Ben Kindle, and Ville Koivunen had themselves a night. They hemmed the Anaheim Ducks in their end. When they weren't in the Anaheim offensive zone, they were very good defensively. And I think a very underrated part of what the kid line did last night was their neutral zone play. Because we know that Anaheim is an offensive transition team. And anytime the kid line was on the ice, they stifled their neutral zone transition. And for a line made up of guys who are all under 22 years old, that is very mature play for those 3.
Kendall was especially also great in his own zone. There was a few sequences when his back checking was sensational, was able to break up a couple of really solid chances for the Ducks. His hockey IQ, especially in his own zone, continues to blow me away for someone who is only 18 years old. It's crazy, man. And that line was living in the offensive zone, shift after shift, pinning the Ducks in their own end, shift after shift. And this wasn't just, for 25, 30 seconds. This was a minute plus, sometimes a minute 30, sometimes even closer to 2 minutes. They were doing a great job cycling, getting a lot of high quality chances. Puck just wasn't going in the back of the net. McGroarty had a couple of really good chances around the net mouth. Koivunen had a couple of good chances. Kindle also had a couple of really good chances around the net mouth and from the high slot. They were great. And the underlying numbers again showed that. They played 9-10 of 5-on-5 minutes during Tuesday's game. In those minutes, they had 72.4% of the shot attempts, 86.7% of the expected goals, 79% of the scoring chances, and all 100% of the high danger chances. Give this line more minutes. This isn't just a one-game thing. I wrote about this for the Hockey News today. Ever since they got together in Philadelphia, they have been taking every team's lunch when they have been out there. Please give them more minutes, because when you look at the minutes from each line last night, Pat, the Brazeau-Hayes-Mantha line got almost a full minute more than the Kindle, Koivunen, and McGroarty line, and their underlyings weren't nearly as good. And if you watch the game, you saw they weren't in the offensive zone as much. So the eye test matched the numbers there. You need to make the kid line your bona fide second line until Evgeny Malkin's ready to return.
Or I will add this. If you saw that the Penguins made some roster moves today, they sent Sam Poulin back to the American Hockey League, which might tell us that Rickard Rakell is closer than we once thought. If that's the case and Raquel's ready to go, make him your second line center. And with Lizotte out, you can put Hayes down on the fourth line as the center there, with Lizotte being out, as I said. And then you can have Rakell as your second line center. You leave the top line intact. You leave the kid line intact. And to your point about them living in Anaheim's zone, they got what I like to call the broadcasters compliment when it comes to offensive zone time. It seemed like every other shift that the kid line was hemming Anaheim in their zone, the broadcast would bring up the shift time chart for the Ducks, and it was always well over a minute. And that is when you know the producers of the broadcast are going, they got something cooking here. Let's let the viewers know how long these Anaheim defenders have been on the ice, because this line is forcing them to stay on the ice for longer than they should. So there's all the positive. There's all the stuff that we need to get out of the way. Now we got to talk about the end of the game. We got to talk about the 0.01 second tying goal, the overtime, and the shootout that led to this Penguins loss. So hang with us. We got one hell of a segment coming for that. We'll be right back right after this. Before we do that, though, we've got to tell you about today's first sponsor, and that is Monarch. The holidays, they're a magical, amazing time, but they can also get overwhelming fast. Whether it's travel, gifts, parties, year-end expenses, you name it, it's really easy to lose track of your finances this time of year, and that is exactly why Monarch has become such a game changer for me. You guys know I love talking about Monarch, and if you want to keep your finances under control this holiday season, you got to be using Monarch. It was rated by the Wall Street Journal as the best budgeting app of 2025, and it's the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, simple-to-use dashboard. I just said it, man. I love using Monarch. This is a really hectic time of year, as everybody knows. I'm buying gifts for my family, buying gifts for my girlfriend and her family. I've got all my year-end parties and everything else I've got to do. It can be real easy for me to forget how many times I've swiped that credit card or that debit card and lose track, but no worries for that, because I've got Monarch. It's helping me keep everything under control right now, keeping my finances in order. I don't have to do any math. I don't have to deal with Excel. It's doing it for me right there. It's absolutely ideal. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, we're back here on the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm Patrick Damp. That's Hunter Hodes. And all right, let's get into it. Penguins give up the tying goal with 0.01 seconds left on the clock to Beckett Seneca. Really, it's an own goal. It goes off of Erik Karlsson's glove. And let's begin there. This is the tying goal for me in last night's game is pretty far down on the list of things that I'm worried about from last night's game, because I'm a sicko and I spend my time extremely wisely. I have rewatched that sequence no less than 50 times, and not because I hate myself, not because I wanted to relive the pain. I really wanted to get a feel for what happened. And I'll be honest, that was about as bad luck of a moment as I can imagine in hockey, outside of like the puck hitting off a ref. Well, even though it can't hit off a ref because then it is a dead play, but like hits off the stanchion and somehow caroms into the net on a clearing attempt. But I go back and watch it. The Ducks clear the puck off the glass. It lands right on their stick after that. Try to do that 50 times. In the NHL, they might get it 25 of 50. So that happens. Rust plays it very well. He puts Seneca right into Chris Letang. Chris Letang tries to go stick to stick, which I will say this about what I'm going to say. He should have absolutely taken the body. He should have just stepped up, put a body into him. But at the same time, we have seen Chris Letang make that stick-on-stick check a million times. It didn't work last night. And then Karlsson putting the puck in the net. I watched this over and over. He didn't slide. He caught an edge and fell. If he would have gone for the slide that both you and I hate, I would have been even angrier about the tying goal. He loses an edge. The puck hits his glove. It goes in. I think if he stays on his feet, they win this game outright. So I look at the tying goal. And it's low on my list of frustrations because it was a moment of when every bad luck thing that can happen to a defending team late can happen, it happened.
All right, so I disagree with Pat on a majority of his points here, which is rare because Pat and I are usually in agreement on about 99% of things on this show. So I think this is going to make for a really good discussion. I think the final 17 seconds were embarrassing and completely unacceptable when you have to defend a lead. They gift wrapped you a perfect Hanukkah present, got taken a penalty with 17 seconds left. All you got to do is win that face-off and play patty cake. Just pass the puck back and forth. Don't even let them get the puck. And if they do somehow get the puck, you just send everyone back and play prevent defense and don't even let them get a chance like that. So Seneca's coming into the zone. I actually disagree with you on Rust. I don't think he played that very well at all. I think if he's able to force him to the boards a bit more, that would have been better. Then Letang, honestly, for him, trip him or tackle him, the game's over. Like, I don't know why he's trying to make that play there. If you literally just trip him, you don't even know if the ref is going to call it. Even if the ref does call it, Pat, there's 2 seconds left on the clock. I would be stunned if they could draw up a set play there to score in 2 seconds off a faceoff, because all you have to do if you're the Penguins, win the faceoff back, you win the game. So I don't think he played it well there. Carlson, I will agree a little bit just because it went off his glove and in. That's a bit of bad luck. I know a lot of people are crucifying Carlson more than anyone else. I think that's wrong. You should crucify Rust and Letang more than you should Carlson. But there's just no reason to even allow a chance like that. Also, I don't want to leave the head coach either.
This is the part that we're going to agree on, but go ahead.
Yeah. If you want to put Erik Karlsson out there, which is good, I'm fine with that. You need to put Parker Wotherspoon out there with him. There is no reason to have Letang and Karlsson out there in the final 17 seconds left. I don't care that you're on a power play to end the game. He did the same thing a couple months ago against the Islanders. You remember Barzal walked right around Karlsson there? Tristan Jarry had to save him there. But the game almost went to overtime there. Got really lucky. Why are you still running out that pairing to end regulation? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And we've seen the minutes this year. Bad things have happened when those two are on the ice together, at the end of periods. Obviously here, that should have been an easy 2 points to skate out. All the vibes are good. I was going to come on the show today saying they played an amazing game because they did for the most part. Those first 59 minutes and 43 seconds were some of the best hockey they have played. But you put it all to waste because of the way you played in the final 17 seconds. It is completely unacceptable, and it's embarrassing that this keeps happening to this team. Like, sooner or later, you're going to have to start defending some leads, or you might be left out of the playoff race here. These lost points are going to add up, and they may come back to bite you in the ass. So, I don't know what needs to change with their mentality at the end of games, gripping their sticks too tight, getting too nervous, their controller disconnecting, but something's got to change with this, man, because it's getting really bad with the way they're defending leads in the third period.
Yeah, and I think the head coach is our biggest point of agreement. And this isn't us saying that we're out on Dan Muse. He has been fantastic as the Penguins head coach, but I understand wanting to go for the kill shot because you get that 17 seconds of power play time. You're up a goal. You're already up. You got 17 seconds left in the period. Why not try to put that final nail in the coffin? But you said it, that bad things happen when Letang and Karlsson are paired up together. So that pairing doesn't need to be out there together. And even if you want to go Wotherspoon, or hell, if you just want to put Wotherspoon and Shea out there together and just lock this thing down, fine with that too. Because that if with how tight this Eastern Conference race is, you probably should be a little bit more wary of regulation wins, goal differential, stuff like that, because the way the East is going this year, we might have some tiebreakers at the end of the season. Now, here are the two things that I'm more upset about than the tying goal. The rest of the power play and overtime was completely useless.
That is fair.
They just played around the perimeter with it. They got chances, but didn't pull the trigger. And if you're able to get that extra point, all's going to be forgiven. Because again, I think at the end of the day, the tying goal was mostly bad luck. Yeah, there were bad plays made and bad decisions made, but that doesn't hit Carlson's glove. We're not even talking about this. And then the other problem, and this gets into what you were saying about the overtime or the tying goal and defending leads. Yeah, it's fun right now to make the joke that, they stink at the fake breakaway competition. You don't play the fake breakaway competition. They have lost in these last 2 years. They have lost 11 of their past 12 shootouts. That's 11 points left on the table. And eventually, you've got to win one of these, because if you don't, you're leaving those points on the table and you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in. If they were to lose every other, or they go back and forth between winning one or two and then losing one or two, I don't care. But 11 of their last 12, those two things are way, way more frustrating for me than a tying goal that goes in off a defenseman's glove.
They're both up there too. I agree with you. I just think it shouldn't have gotten to that point. That's why the end of regulation is higher than those two things. Like, it shouldn't even have gotten to overtime. They should have skated away with the 2 points. We will be on here singing their praises about what a great overall game it was. So those other two things, I agree, they are problems, but the end of regulation still trumps that, just because of the way that almost everyone played it. As for the shootouts, yeah, I mean, they've converted on 3 of their last 20 shootout attempts. And hey, they at least changed the lineup last night. Still awful. Sidney Crosby still comes down, does the same move. And I've liked Ville Koivunen's game for the last couple of weeks. He had his earlier shootout attempt earlier this year when he came on. He tried the same move. People scout you, man. Like, they know what move is coming. So you're going to have to add a new move to your repertoire. I know Tommy Novak came out there as well. Not much of anything. There's just no original moves. Make a deke. It's terrible. Archer Shilov's, we all know how bad he is in shootouts. Got destroyed on the first one. Got lucky that the second one missed the net completely. But we all knew what was going to happen when that game went to shootouts, just because the Penguins are terrible in the skills competition. And now their losing streak in shootouts is now at 9. And to go even further, Pat, they've lost 13 of the last 14 shootouts. It's a major problem. You talked about the power play in overtime. I agree with you. It was horrendous. Way too much perimeter play. But even after that expired, Connor Dewar, golden chance. You just have to hit the net, and that puck goes in. Oh, hits the post, because of course it hits the post with all the bad luck bounces that they had in that game outside of the Mantha and Novak goals. But all you have to do is hit the net there, and they still skate away with the extra point. Wasn't able to do that. So,
and here's the last point that I want to make that I don't think a lot of our listeners are going to be expecting. I don't think overall that this game was totally lost in that 0.1 second tying goal or the overtime power play or the shootout. I said this to you in a text message. There was about a 10-minute span in the second period that I think really put the Penguins behind the 8 ball. For the first, I'll say 25 to 30 minutes-ish of the game, the Penguins dominated simply because they stuck to good puck support, quick passes, strong breakouts, and taking what Anaheim gave them. For about a 8 to 10 minute span in the second period, they decided that they wanted to go for the home run stretch pass. And that is what opened the door for Anaheim, because they were able to run their transition game. They were able to run their speed game, knock down the stretch pass, and it gave them life, because you look at what they did in the second period, they were able to come back on the Penguins, and they didn't have to change their strategy. Now, maybe they saw something that Anaheim was doing and tried to counter it, but at the end of the day, as a friend of mine, Josh Taylor, likes to say, it's the George Novak principle. You keep doing the same thing until they stop it. They hadn't shown an ability to stop what the Penguins were doing, and for some reason, they changed it.
They got a little too cute. I agree with you on that. I mean, the Jackson Lacombe shot was pretty good, though I will say there might be a hot take to some. I still want Shilovs to make that save and not give up that little bit of room upstairs. Don't get me wrong. The release was great. He put it in the perfect spot. Just would still like Shilovs to make that save. Maybe I'm being a little too picky on him, but that's the way I see it. The second goal, though, You and I both agree. That's bad. Like, he gave him way too much room. You got to square up to the shooter there if you're Archer Sheelaws, and he didn't do it. So I agree with you. I felt they got a little too cute, but they were still able to, A, tie the game later in the period, and then B, you take the lead with less than 4 minutes to go. This was actually looking like role reversal. Remember from the game in Anaheim when Kreider scored late in the third to give the Penguins that loss before it looked like the Penguins were going to get a point? It looked like the Ducks were potentially going to get a point out of this. And then Anthony Mantha had other ideas because the Ducks took a late penalty in the third. Parker Wotherspoon took that late penalty in the third. Looked like the Penguins were going to skate away with at least a point. They didn't. So we were very close to role reversal until everyone's controller disconnected in the final 17 seconds. So just really frustrating. If they can really clean up these self-inflicted, stupid ways that they keep finding to lose, I think they'll be fine because they've shown an ability throughout this season to not just be better than the good teams in the league, but dominate the good teams in the league. And you've especially seen it these last couple of games.
100%. It's been two really good efforts followed by bad luck or just self-inflicted wounds. But I will end with this. We didn't have high expectations for this team. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to critique them. It doesn't mean that we're not going to analyze what goes wrong and hold them to a higher standard, because as I've said, we know this team clearly has designs on returning to the playoffs. So if that's the standard they're going to set, we're going to hold them to it. But do keep in mind that we didn't expect to be here. We didn't expect them to be this good. Just keep that in mind, that they might regress to what we expected at the end of the day, but still tough losses, self-inflicted wounds. But you can see that, as Hunter said, the potential is there. The efforts are there. They clean it up ever so slightly. This could be a really, really good hockey team. But we're going to end this marathon segment right here. When we come back, it's my favorite segment on this show. It's Wednesday. That means it's Warrior Helmet Wednesday, where we give out our MVP of the week. And we will do that when we come back right after this. But before we do that, we've got one more sponsor to get to, and that is FanDuel. NFL Sundays, they move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's where making live bets with FanDuel can be so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. We've got the Steelers and the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Dun, 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 dun. So if you want to get in on that action where the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last few years have been pretty unbeatable on Monday Night Football, if you're looking to extend their stretch and win a little bit of scratch on that bet, you've got the odds for the Steelers to win on Monday Night Football. Live betting, it's the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines adjusting instantly, player props updating as guys heat up, and you can bet the next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in on every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, closing out the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins, I'm Patrick Damp. That's Hunter Hodes, and I said it already, it's my favorite segment on Locked On Penguins. We hand out the Warrior Helmet as part of Warrior Helmet Wednesday. And if you're new here, that is how we pick our weekly MVP. It is paying homage to the 2016 Stanley Cup winning Pittsburgh Penguins, where the team that season, after wins in the regular season and the playoffs, would give out their team MVP of the game with a Warrior helmet. So we do that for our week. And Hunter, it's going to be another week where you and I are in agreement on our weekly MVP. And let's pull up the graphic here. Without further ado, it is Tristan Jarry. What a week for him. 3 starts against Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, and Dallas. Against Philly, a .966 save percentage. Against Tampa, .925. And against Dallas, .913 in total. he only gives up 6 goals in those games. And he is back to playing confident. He has grabbed the starting job and run with it. It has been quite a week and quite a season for Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, I mean, this one was pretty easy. Honestly, we probably could have given it to him last week as well. This one's felt a little overdue for the last week or two, I think, but Jarry's been sensational. I mean, against the Flyers, you said it, 966. He was cool, calm, and collected in his crease, was playing aggressive. Against Tampa Bay, he was the biggest reason, outside of the Penguins being opportunistic, why they won that game. He was making 10 bell save after 10 bell save. Even against Dallas, especially in overtime after the Stars tied it late in the third, he made a couple of monstrous saves on Jason Robertson. Jarry has just been great so far this season, and I obviously want it to continue for a full season. I'm still a little nervous just because we've seen the inconsistencies pop up throughout his career and how, when the calendar flips to January, he kind of turns into a different goaltender. But for this past week, he was, in my opinion, the Penguins' best player, and he deserves the Warrior helmet because he has been very consistent in net throughout the season, but especially this past week.
Yeah, this week, you said it. I mean, you look at the Tampa game especially. They probably don't win that game without him just because he faces 40 shots, makes 37 saves, and Tampa was pressing all night long. The Penguins were able to take advantage of the opportunities that they got. There were some fluky bounces, a call that a lot of people didn't like late in the game, but when they needed him to step up, he stepped up. And the same thing goes for Dallas. Dallas had quite a few big-time opportunities in regulation, and he was able to stymie them, get a big stop, and shift the momentum back in the Penguins' favor. So it has been, to this point, a marvelous rebound for Tristan Jarry. Obviously, we're all a little wary of whether or not it's going to keep up, but in the here and now, it has been really, really good. So let's take a look at our tracker for the whole season. Here is where we are at. Tristan Jarry joins the list of people to get one on the season, joining Kyle Dubas, Erik Karlsson, Dan Muse, the penalty kill, the power play. Couple of players with 2 Warrior helmets on the season, Justin Brazeau, Ben Kindle, and Sergei Murashov, and leading the pack with 3 guys you would expect, Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby. Why are we having the tracker up? Because this year we got to take Warrior helmet to the next level, folks. We got to make sure we know who we're handing Warrior helmets out to. So when the season ends after game 82, or maybe some playoff games, who knows what this season is going to hold, we will give out a season-long Warrior helmet for our MVP of the 2025-26 Penguins season. But Hunter, unless you got anything else to add, I think you and I have used up all the words we have left in us after that game. But that'll do it for the Wednesday edition of Locked On Penguins. Hunter and I will be back with a brand new episode for you on Thursday to get you set for the Penguins and the Habs on Thursday night. But for now, for Hunter Hodes, I am Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in, and we'll be back on Thursday.